Hi again everybody, welcome back. Thought it was time to give you another brief video overview where my system's at these days. It's been a while since I've had the chance to do one. The problem I've got here, obviously I don't have any specific lighting in the room, so it's only on a really bright sunny day that I can do this, because my camera is certainly struggling to give you any high definition stuff. Anyway, here we are. Currently running the Heaven benchmark. GPUs are fairly well utilised, I would think. Going back to the previous video, I think you can see their temperatures are considerably improved, obviously because we're now running on the 580 Phantoms are now on water. Been on water for a few months. Blocks have been performing extremely well. There was a little bit of an issue with the EK water blocks, as noted by some users earlier in the year, whereby they'd noticed a bit of a corrosion issue with the nickel plated blocks. Fortunately for me, I've been using Thermachel EC6 clear coolant, which is pretty pure from what I can from what I know about it. Hasn't got any dye in it or anything like that. It's just probably just distilled water, a bit of biocide and some anti-corrosive agents, and I've recently stripped my blocks just to ensure I didn't have the corrosion issue, and sure enough I was fine. They were good as new, so I was quite relieved about that, because there's some people reporting that the when the nickel plating actually comes off, some people are saying, whether this is true or not of course, some people are saying that the the loops, pumps and the rads are getting blocked up with it. I'm not so sure whether that can actually be true, but anyway. You might note there's some new braiding. Having spent hours and hours trying to figure out how to braid my own cables, and I did actually achieve it, but I wasn't really too pleased with the way it looked. And BitPhoenix have come up with these cables now, cable extensions, which are not that expensive. I think the 6-pin graphics card one's around £6. The 8-pin one is similar. The motherboard one is can't remember, £7 or something like that. It's not a lot of money, given that they do a superb job. The braiding itself is very close weave, and as you can see there's no actual heat shrink on the plugs, so it looks very tidy. So I was quite happy to spend a few bob just getting those, plugging them in. I've added some, as you can see, some red accents, because it was all predominantly, everything was black, and black, yeah, it gets a bit boring after a while, doesn't it? So there's a little bit of colour. There's some red accents on the main board, so I thought I'd do red for the 8-pin and black for the 6-pin. Sharp-eyed ones of you may notice that the PPU is now missing. I've taken out the 460 that was in slot 4. I was told by several review sites, one in particular, not mentioning any names, that it didn't really matter if one of your main GPUs was running at ×8 and the other one was at ×16. You shouldn't see much of a performance hit. Well, I wasn't getting particularly good 3D Mark Vantage scores, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. Just switching the PCI lane off and trying it without the PPU running wasn't enough. I don't know, the BIOS knew it was in there, or the driver did, or something. But having removed it completely and reinstalling the driver, then allowing both cards to run at ×16, Vantage, the 3D Mark Vantage score went from 48,000 to nearly 52. So the 460, even though it was clocked right up to the same core clock as the main GPUs, it was slowing everything down. I don't know why. Perhaps everything plugged in at the end of the day. Every bit of hardware uses some sort of bandwidth. So of course I can no longer use that. I can't use my accessory monitor. But it's not really a problem having the 3 screens to use. I can still use the center one for certain applications, and maybe this one just for temperature monitoring and other things like that. Or I can use all 3 and not really worry about temperatures, because the key temperature GPUs is down here, so that's fine. And not all games are really well suited to 2D surround. Some work better than others. Some work, but it's just not the same gaming experience when you've got, the field of view's not quite right, and you can't figure out how to get it the way you want it. So as you know, these monitors are all swivel mounted, so I can move them around when I want them. I did make some changes to the pumps. I put the pump used to be way down the bottom there. That's now sitting at the top, makes it easier to bleed. All the air rises to the top of the rads and comes up to the res, so that's fine. Obviously my return line now is very, very long, so I've added, not sure if you can see down there, I have actually added a booster pump in behind the secondary PSU. That's obviously increased flow rates and made up for the restriction which is in the main board block. Again, I didn't realise just how restrictive the chipset block was. The FB RE3 is probably the most restrictive block in the loop. So adding that extra pump to give me an extra flow rate compensated for that, plus the frictional loss you get in long tubing. Frictional loss isn't something that you would normally hear about on a water cooling loop because most rigs have the rads inside the case. Now I'm still a great believer in thinking the cooling efficiency of the rad is only as good as the air that flows through it and the temperature of the air that flows through it. And you know, if a radiator is inside a case, if you're pulling air from outside, nice cool air, then you're dumping the hot air into the case. If you're doing it the other way around and you're taking the air from inside the case through the radiator, that air isn't the coolest that's in the room. So, you know, rightly or wrongly, I've decided to stick with external rad solution. Some people think it's not the way to do it, but for me, that's what I decided to do. Very, very pleased with the Triebwerk mid-speed fans, to the point where I bought another 3 and put them on the 360. The Noctuas were just kicking around, so I just stuck them on there, more so to mount the dust filters than anything. You can't really see them there, but I've got proper dust filters now. We're not using the old pair of tights. So that's working well. Very pleased so far with how the whole system runs. We've had this benchmark running now for quite a while. Temperature's 44. I think on air these were about probably 75-78 degrees. So again, water cooled graphics cards, you can push the clocks. I've had the core clocks on these 3 gig Phantoms up to 925 stable. Current overclock on the 980X processor. I've had that up to 4.8, 4.85. The day-to-day clock now is 4.6. Everything's good. Current games I'm playing are FB RE3. Only had that for a few days. That's pretty good. Pretty routine shooter, but it's a lot of fun. Certainly better than the dreadful Duke Nukem. Goodness knows why I had a look at that. What I was expecting from there is beyond me why I bought that one. But anyway, there you go. What are you going to do? Still waiting for an SLI profile for Cliffs of Dover. For some reason Nvidia seemed to think it was more important to let people watch 3-dimensional tits than it was to, you know, have a decent flight simulator. Goodness knows what they're thinking. I really don't know who prioritises what applications get attention to drivers and what ones don't. I was really mad about that. Anyway, before we get too controversial, that'll do for now. There's a little update for you. Please feel free to ask any questions. I'll be happy to answer if I can. Thanks a lot.